Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip is an incredibly different take on the open world formula. It sees you playing as a disappointment, sounds familiar, whose only goal in life is to get a car and take it into space. But in order to do this, you'll have to explore the lawless town of Spranklewater, doing favors and earning junk so that you can turn your taxi into the ultimate spacecraft. If that sounds completely absurd, I don't blame you. But hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of two things: what exactly this game is, and if it's any good. While other open world games give you a series of main and side quests, Tiny Terry only has one core objective, and that is to upgrade your car and ascend the giant vertical road in the middle of town. You do this by collecting junk around the open world. You can also earn money from completing quests, which not only serves as a requirement for junk a lot of the time, but it also lets you buy useful items such as a paraglider and, well, hats. I really do like how for the most part the currencies are separated. This lets you make progress on side objectives while never really affecting your mission of going into space. At no point does the game hold your hand, and you're largely left to your own devices to explore the town and discover its richly interactive environments and varied activities. Almost every side quest involves the introduction of a new gameplay mechanic, which often doesn't really ever evolve and is only used for that specific activity, but the game gets away with it because the core fundamentals of exploring and traversing the world are so strong and unashamedly fun. And also, it means you'll never get bored of having to do the same thing over and over again, which can't be said for a lot of other open world games. And when I say these activities are varied, I really mean it. Within the space of 5 minutes, I went from playing a football game at a summer school to selling stolen cars. Now, you might think that this massive range of gameplay mechanics could make for a conflicting and unorganized experience, but everything is held together by the wacky and self-aware tone that somehow manages to connect the absolutely insane antics that you'll get up to around the open world. But don't worry, as while it does acknowledge that it is a game, at no point did the experience feel inorganic, and it's so clearly crafted with love that you can't help but smile when you play it. The aforementioned self-awareness isn't just used as a cheap method of comedy. Instead, the game intelligently uses it to justify the many absurd mechanics that you'll come across throughout its approximately 4-hour campaign. For example, there are canonically no laws within the town of Spranklewater, which means you can go around hitting people with a pipe as well as running them over, and you're even rewarded for doing so. It's this prioritization of fun over anything else that makes Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip a fundamentally enjoyable game. I simply can't describe just how charming this game is. From the low-stakes gameplay to the music, it really reminds me of the cartoonish open-world games of the early 2000s, such as Simpsons Hit and Run. And while there isn't any spoken dialogue, the writing more than makes up for it. One of the funniest encounters I had in the game was with a character named Ricky, who after your first interaction will hunt you down throughout the open world to challenge you to a game of bumper cars, which never stopped being funny. And although what I'm about to talk about has been fixed now, in an earlier pre-release version of the game, this minigame was completely broken for me, meaning each and every time I was forced into a game of bumper cars, I'd have to restart the entire game, making Ricky a truly terrifying presence within the open world. But thankfully, that issue is no longer present, and I've been having a lot of fun getting back at him. And that does also bring me to the game's technical state, which I'm glad to report that after the aforementioned Ricky incident was patched, is very polished. Also, in terms of performance, it's absolutely flawless, and I even got it running on the Steam Deck at a smooth 60 FPS. And let me tell you, this really is a perfect game for that device. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip is so clearly made with passion that its beautifully stylized world and hilarious characters are guaranteed to make you smile. Of course, it's not the most fleshed out as an experience, but if you're looking for some casual low-stakes fun, then I'm sure you'll have a good time with it.